Hi there, my name is Mr. Pete. I am a fourth grade teacher and I am currently reading Holes, but today is a sad day. Every year when I read this, we get to this day, and this is, of course, the last day I'll be reading Holes this year. Part 3, Filling in the Holes. This is chapter 50, our concluding chapter with so many questions still to answer. And don't worry, if you can't think of all of the questions to answer, Louis Sachar has already done that for us. Let's dive in. Chapter 50, let's fill in those holes. Stanley's mother insists that there never was a curse. She even doubts whether Stanley's great-great-grandfather really stole a pig. The reader might find it interesting, however, that Stanley's father invented his cure for foot odor the day after the great-great-grandson of Elia Yelnats carried the great-great-great-grandson of Madame Zeroni up the mountain. So remember, Elia promised Madame Zeroni to carry her up the mountain so she could drink from the stream that ran uphill and sing the song to her. Stanley carried Hector up the mountain, found the water, he drank from it, and then Stanley sang his family's version of the song. The next day, Stanley's dad found the cure to foot odor. Curse lifted? The Attorney General closed Camp Green Lake. Ms. Walker, who was in desperate need of money, had to sell the land which had been in her family for generations. It was bought by a national organization dedicated to the well-being of young girls. In a few years, Camp Green Lake will become a Girl Scout camp. By the way, Miss Walker. Yeah. All right. Trout Walker. This is pretty much the end of the story. The reader probably still has some questions, but unfortunately from here on in, the answers tend to be long and tedious. While Mrs. Bell, Stanley's former math teacher, might want to know the percent change in Stanley's weight, the reader probably cares more about the change in Stanley's character and self-confidence. But those changes are subtle and hard to measure. There is no simple answer. Even the contents of the suitcase turned out to be somewhat tedious. Stanley's father pried it open in his workshop, and at first everyone gasped at the sparkling jewels. Stanley thought he and Hector had become millionaires, but the jewels were of poor quality, worth no more than $20,000. Underneath the jewels was a stack of papers that had once belonged to the first Stanley Yelnats. These consisted of stock certificates, deeds of trust, and promissory notes. They were hard to read and even more difficult to understand. Ms. Marengo's law firm spent more than 2 months going through all the papers. They turned out to be a lot more valuable than the jewels. After legal fees and taxes, Stanley and Zero each received less than $1 million. But not a lot less. It was enough for Stanley to buy his family a new house with a laboratory in the basement, and for Hector to hire a team of private investigators. Why would Hector hire a team of private investigators? But it would be boring to go through all the tedious details of all the changes in their lives. Instead, the reader will be presented with one last scene, which took place almost a year and a half after Stanley and Hector left Camp Green Lake. You will have to fill in the holes yourself. Here we go. There was a small party at the Yelnats' house. Except for Stanley and Hector, everyone there was an adult. All kinds of snacks and drinks were set out on the counter, including caviar, champagne, and the fixings to make ice cream sundaes. The Super Bowl was on television, but nobody was really watching. "It should be coming on the next break," Ms. Marengo announced. A timeout was called in the football game, and a commercial came on the screen. Everyone stopped talking and watched. The commercial showed a baseball game. Amid a cloud of dust, Clyde Livingston slid into home plate as the catcher caught the ball and tried to tag him out. "Safe!" shouted the umpire as he signaled with his arms. The people at Stanley's house cheered as if the run really counted. Clyde Livingston got up and dusted the dirt off of his uniform. As he made his way back to the dugout, he spoke to the camera. "Hi, I'm Clyde Livingston, but everyone around here calls me Sweet Feet." "Way to go, Sweet Feet," said another baseball player, slapping his hand. Besides being on the television screen, Clyde Livingston was also sitting on the couch next to Stanley. His hero, Clyde Livingston, is at Stanley's house. Remember, Stanley didn't steal the shoes. So what's this commercial for? "But my feet weren't always sweet," television Clyde Livingston said as he sat down on the dugout bench. "They used to smell so bad that nobody would sit near me in the dugout." "They really did stink," said the woman sitting on the couch on the other side of Clyde. She held her nose with one hand and fanned the air with the other. Clyde shushed her. It's Clyde's wife. "Then a teammate told me about Sploosh," said the television Clyde. He pulled a can of Sploosh out from under the dugout bench and held it up for everyone to see. "I just spray a little on each foot every morning, and now I really do have sweet feet. Plus, I like the tingle." "Sploosh," said a voice. "A treat for your feet. Made from all natural ingredients, it neutralizes odor-causing fungi and bacteria. Plus, you'll like the tingle." Everyone at the party clapped their hands. So Stanley's dad created that thing for foot odor, and they got Clyde Livingston to make the commercial. Very cool. "He wasn't lying," said the woman who sat next to Clyde. "I couldn't even be in the same room with his socks." The other people at the party laughed. The woman continued, "I'm not joking. It was so bad." "You've made your point," said Clyde, covering her mouth with his hand. He looked back at Stanley. "Will you do me a favor, Stanley?" Stanley raised and lowered his left shoulder. "I'm going to get more caviar," said Clyde. "Keep your hand over my moist mouth." He patted Stanley on the shoulder as he rose from the couch. Stanley looked uncertainly at his hand, then at Clyde Livingston's wife. She winked at him. He felt himself blush and turned away toward Hector, who was sitting on the floor in front of an overstuffed chair. A woman, sitting in the chair behind Hector, was absent-mindedly fluffing his hair with her fingers. She wasn't very old, but her skin had a weathered look to it, almost like leather. Her eyes seemed weary, as if she'd seen too many things in her life that she didn't want to see. And when she smiled, her mouth seemed too big for her face. Very softly, she half sang, half hummed a song that her grandmother used to sing to her when she was a little girl. If only, the moon speaks no reply, reflecting the sun and all that's gone by. Be strong, my weary wolf, turn around boldly, fly high, my baby bird, my angel, my only. And that is the end of Holes. Every time I finish this book, that moment is just amazing. Who is that woman? Of course, it is his mother, singing him the song that her family's version. Remember, Madame Zeroni is the one who taught it to Elia all those years ago. And now Zero has found his mom. So, what a fantastic book. By far, Louis Sachar's best book, and he's written a lot of really good ones. He has written a second book. It's called Small Steps. It is not about Stanley Yelnats. I don't think he's in that book. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've read it. It is a whole different kind of book set after some of the boys have returned from Camp Green Lake. Which ones? It's up to you to find out. All right, thank you so much for joining me for this fantastic reading of Louis Sachar's Holes. What an amazing book this was, and hopefully you'll get some enjoyment out of it. If you've come across this page and you haven't read any of the other chapters, please make sure you go back and watch the rest. Also, please make sure you subscribe. I will be reading lots more books. I have a ton already here, all for other teachers to use, all for kids at home to use, all for families to use together, so that you can have a resource to go along with the copies of the book that you buy. It's not about just listening to the audio. It's about following along with the words. It's about making those connections, finding those lit terms such as similes and metaphors and hyperbole, finding new vocabulary, and really attacking that text. So click like, click subscribe. Please give me some ideas for some new books to read down below. Thank you so much for joining me. And as I say at the end of every book, I will see you in the next book. Peace.